Good evening, everyone. Tonight, me and Ben are going to do something slightly different. We're going to look back in time.
Ooh.
We thought I'd do a top 10 of my childhood games. So, it's things that have inspired me to be the game player I am now. So, there'd be games that my brothers that I played, and then there'd be things that I discovered, and there'd be things later on that I've discovered, and things that I've sort of gone back to. Nice. So I'm going to explain them to Ben, because Ben's obviously, we're about the same age, me and Ben. Yeah. He's a bit younger than me. So I can show him things that maybe he has seen, maybe you have seen. So
I've seen some things, man.
You've seen some things. So yeah, we're going to go through it.
Number 10!
So number 10 is a game called Torpedo Run. I got this game when it was one of my birthdays. And the funny thing is, this game, when I looked into it, came out in 1986, but I was probably 10 at this stage, so it was a bit later that I got this game. Now, this game, to describe it to Ben and to you at home, you played on a big board. You had to do it on the floor because it was that big.
Really?
Yeah, it was massive. Yeah, it was like, you played as ships, basically. So you had one set of ships, second set of ships. And what you had to do, you had to destroy the other fleet. Simple as that. Really basic, to the point. You load little discs into a submarine and you fired at your opponent across the floor. And as you got a good shot, you'd hit the middle of the boat and the boat would explode.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
The game was really cool. I probably had it for a month, and unfortunately the submarines broke. Both the submarines on both sides, they broke. So we took it back to the shop and they unfortunately said, yeah, this is quite a common thing on the game. So here's your money back, and I never saw the game. I never played it again. But I did play it constantly for a month. It was amazing.
So basically you wore it out.
I wore it out. In a month, I wore it out.
So we don't have a copy of that we can look at, right?
No, we don't, unfortunately. It's long gone. It's got to send back to the shop.
But through the power of the internet, we do have the original TV commercial for this game, right?
Yeah, we do.
Let's take a look at that now.
Introducing Torpedo Run, a Floor Wars game from Milton Bradley.
Dive! Dive! Enemy fleet attacking! Oh, man your battle stations! Fire 1! Fire 2! Our destroyer's been hit! Red alert! Red alert! The flagship's lifting astern! We're doomed! Fire all remaining torpedoes! Ah, we got him! Direct hit!
Have a war on your floor. Play Torpedo Run, new from Milton Bradley.
Number 9!
So, number 9 is a game called Ghost Castle. Now, I never owned this game.
Right.
My friend Luke owned it, and we used to play it a lot down his house. The thing that made it so cool, because remember, it came out in 1985, and probably when Luke had it, I was probably 5 or 6 again, so it was a few years after the actual date it came out. The thing that struck me with it, being an early or sort of mid-80s game, was it wasn't just a flat 2D board. The game went up.
One of those classic moulded.
Classic moulded. You had to basically start the ghost castle. There was secret passageways. There was secret bits and pieces. And every so often, you'd have to roll a skull down the top of the castle, and it would reveal a secret passageway or knock you off something.
Right.
Again, really basic, but for back in the day, to have a game where you actually explored the castle and you worked your way up to the very top, it was so cool.
That sounds really cool.
And again, unfortunately, Friends games, I haven't got it, but hopefully we see an advert right now.
Who's brave enough to play Ghost Castle? The victim's journey room by room. They take their chances. Along the way, anything can happen, and usually does. To win, you must reach the coffin and lay the ghost. Will anybody survive Ghost Castle from NB Games?
Number 8!
Again, another really, this is retro. This is
Right.
1976. This is the oldest game on my top 10 list. So
It's older than you, right?
Yes, it's a little older than me, Ben. Thank you. Yes. So 1976 this came out, and this was my brother's game, and it's a game called Alley Cats. Now again, really basic, to the point. It's a kids' game. Setup was simple. You were cats. You had to run around the alleys and find fish.
Right.
Simple as that. But here's the twist. It was set up with dustbins everywhere. So you had to go around and open a dustbin.
Right.
And hopefully in the dustbin there'd be a fish. If there was a fish, you'd hang your fish on your alley cat and you'd take your fish back home. But here's the twist.
Mm-hmm.
Every so often you'd open a lid of a bin and there'd be a dog inside.
Nice.
And the dog would chase you back home. So if you didn't get back home quick enough, the dog would get you and lose all your fish.
That's pretty cool.
The game was very basic,
Yeah.
but as a kid, we spent hours playing it. Very basic game, to the point. But I think as well, because being a kid, everything was sort of flat. You play games like Cluedo and Snakes and Ladders. But this game was like, the figures were all sort of proper high figures. You had bins. It was interactive. It made it a bit more like, I'm in this game.
Number 7!
Okay, so this is one game that we actually have still in possession. And if you can see this on camera, it's seen better days, but it has been played a lot. This is Escape from Atlantis. Again, another old Waddington's game from 1986. It was, well, again, 3D, but we can actually have a look at this.
Okay.
I will go through a few bits and pieces while we go to open the box. But it's exactly what it says on the tin. Atlantis is a little island, and you have to escape from it. As simple as that. So, here we have it. This is Atlantis.
It's pretty cool.
Very, very simple. You had to basically get to the safety of the islands on the outside.
Right.
You had all your men in the middle. It's obviously 4 players, 4 islands. And the idea was literally to get down to the boats on the shore, sail the boats to the island, and survive. The twist is, the island slowly disintegrates as you go. So it gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
What triggers that? Is that each turn certain?
Each turn, bits goes away. Here's the cool thing. This is how you move the monsters. Now, the monsters were randomly generated by flipping over one of these. So, now, if you flipped over this one, it's a monster.
So the creatures will appear on the tile that you flip over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Randomly appear. Now, each creature had their own unique thing. A monster could flip over a boat and eat everybody on board.
Okay.
An octopus, which is this little fella right here, he could flip over a boat. You couldn't eat anybody on board, but you'll be in the sea then. You have to swim for your lives. Of course, the sea has got sharks in. If there's a shark in the water, he would come and munch you up too. But there was a respite, because if you got very lucky, you got a dolphin. And a dolphin would protect you from the sea creatures, and he'd swim you back to shore.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So on your goes, again, this is the unique thing. No dice involved. You had a spinner. And this was a really cool thing. You spin that round, put that down. And a D would basically mean if this shark was over here, because obviously the idea of the game is to escape with all your men first before your players, the other players do. So if Ben, say, was yellow right here, was swimming in water over here, if I got a D with my shark, I could dive my shark in and just make him appear there and munch up Ben.
I can tell that some of us would fall out over this game.
So there you go. Escape from Atlantis. If you get a chance to play it, it's great fun. It really is great fun.
Number 6.
Okay, we're going a bit more dark now. Atlas. This is a game from 1995, Atmosphere, The Harbingers. Now, anybody who knows the game Atmosphere, the original was the first sort of interactive game you played. So you got a tape with it, stuck it in the video player. This shows how old it is.
So this wasn't the original Atmosphere, right?
No, this wasn't.
This was a sequel?
This was like, I believe this actually was the 3rd one.
Okay.
I think they had the Atmosphere, the original game, then they had Atmosphere 2, and they had the Harbingers. Now, I was lucky enough to get the Harbingers. I always wanted Atmosphere, the first one, but waited because there was other games and stuff I wanted, so had to wait till Christmas, and then got Atmosphere, the Harbingers. Now, actually, I don't get me wrong, I haven't played the others, but reading about the others and this one, I believe this one is probably the one that suited me best, I think.
Right.
It was a bit more interactive. You became something rather than just a generic bod. So we're going to put out the box and we have a look and see what we become.
Awesome.
So here we go. The Harbingers themselves. So you had the choice to be a vampire, a mummy, a zombie, an evil weird baby. I believe she was actually a witch.
A poltergeist.
Oh, a poltergeist. So there you go. A werewolf. And, there's the witch. Sorry, the pumpkin was the witch, of course. So these were the Harbingers which you became. So as you played the game, the idea was to collect keys to get to the end, to face your biggest fear.
You
players, you're changing too. You have 1 hour to stop the gatekeeper. Atmosphere. The video board game that puts you at each other's throat. Atmosphere. The sound, the nightmare, the game. Atmosphere.
So, of course, the idea of the game was to adventure around the different realms of the underworld. So each realm basically was possessed by a Harbinger. If the Harbingers didn't appear, you became a Soul Reaper in the underworld who would go around hunting these guys, the Harbingers. Which is another cool thing about the game. The board used to flip over. Harbinger's domain, the underworld's domain. Now, Harbingers can go anywhere. They can go between each realm, go around collecting the keys. End of the day, you get 6 keys. Once you've got your 6 keys, you can escape and win. Soul Reapers made it a bit harder for them because they couldn't actually leave the underworld. So the only way they could get their keys was to get their own keys from their underworld, maybe get to another underworld if they could, they were lucky enough, but they would wait until a Harbinger entered their territory and then they'd go kick their ass for a key.
Okay, so you had to get an extra key, so you collect all your own, steal one.
Well, no, you had to collect 1 key from every province, but you could collect as many as you wanted. So if you wanted to, you could collect as many keys as you wanted from your own realm. Then people have to fight you for them. So that's what made it a bit more.
Okay.
Bit more tactics involved. Bit more like, okay, if I am a Soul Reaper, I'm gonna have to stay down here, collect all my keys, entice people to come fight me, so I can hopefully get their keys.
Nice. Okay.
But remember, all the whole time, obviously the game only plays for an hour, literally. So you put the VHS in. You've got an hour until the gatekeeper basically says, that's it, game over. Whoever hasn't won, hasn't won.
Really?
Yeah. And of course, the idea of the guy on the video, the gatekeeper, he would basically throw sort of spanners in the works. So you'd be running around thinking, yep, things are going well, I've got all my keys. And then suddenly say, nope, you haven't got all your keys. You're going to lose all your keys. You're going to go back to here, to a little black hole, and you're stuck there for the next 2 goes. So you think everything's going great, and a spanner gets thrown in the works.
So, explain to me, because I remember vaguely playing this when I was younger.
Yeah.
Not this version.
Yeah.
But it's a preset game on the tape, right?
Yes.
So the same game will happen every time.
Technically, the same game will happen every time because the VHS never changes.
No.
But obviously, the way you play it, there's no way you're going to remember what he's going to tell you every time.
No.
You've just got to play because you concentrate so much on playing the game that you've got no time to think about what's going on in the background because he disappears for such a long time. Sometimes you're there for minutes playing, you think everything's good, and he just suddenly appear, and everything gets thrown into chaos.
That's pretty cool.
Again, really cool game. Maybe, quite Halloween in this game.
Could be a good idea for Halloween Spooktacular.
Halloween Spooktacular.
I like it. Let's try that.
So there you go. Atmosphere the Harbingers. Great game. Maybe Halloween this year, we may play it.
Number 5! If you've ever seen the old TV advert for this, the way the kid says Dreadnought is amazing.
Space Crusade takes you into warp space to fight the force of chaos. Deep in a parallel universe where nightmares are real. Space Crusade, the ultimate adventure game, where you must use all your skill and weaponry.
Plasma gun! Dreadnought!
To battle through infested starships and win the highest rank. The ultimate encounter is here. Space Crusade, now with a new adventure pack.
So, breaking into the top 5 is Space Crusade. Now, if you are fans of the channel and you've been watching our forays into Hero Quest, this basically is Hero Quest in space. That's the best way to describe it. Game's really cool. It's a 4-player game. You've got the aliens basically is controlled by the Dungeon Master, who would have been, but you know, the alien commander. And then you've got 3 squads of Space Marines. Anyone who's a fan of 40k will know the Space Marine chapters. They're the Blood Angels. They're the Imperial Fists. They're the Ultramarines.
Nice. You'd
venture through a big spaceship, battling aliens, and then you'd rank up your guys, get extra weapons, get extra bits and pieces. Really, really cool. Instead of controlling just one guy, like you would do in Hero Quest, you control a squad of guys. You run around. And again, this one, it probably would have been number 1, spoiler alert, but because I never actually owned this as a child, I had to actually play my friend's one. But any excuse to go around his house to play it was always like, I'm going around and play Space Crusade. So I couldn't justify giving it the number 1 spot just because I didn't play enough. But because it made the indelible mark on me that it did, it had to go in the top 5 because it was just so cool. To the point where, years later, as an adult, I found this set on eBay and it was immaculate. Absolutely. Never been broken out of any of its packaging. So I broke the Cardinal Rule, I broke it out of all its packaging, I broke out all the cardboard bits, it's never been touched. I got it all out because I wanted to play it. So I thought there's no point buying this and just boxing it up and leaving it boxed up. It has to be played with.
That's really cool.
So let's have a quick sneaky peek. Okay, so here it is in all its glory. Again, just a little bit like Hero Quest. The games were randomly made by obviously the book. I say randomly made. You had a mission book, which is really cool, which the Dungeon Master or the Alien Commander would have. He'd set your missions. You'd go in as a squad, try and complete your missions. Again, you weren't fighting against each other by any means, because the Space Marine chapters wouldn't fight against each other. But you would basically be trying to get the kills because you'd want to get the points.
Nice.
So you wouldn't do each other out of the game, as in, you'd support each other and sort of covering fire and stuff, but you'd want to get those kills. So your mission was, you had to get the winning kill on, say, like the Chaos Commander here, you'd make sure you'd get the winning kill.
Yeah, so you'd support the other squads, but you need the points for your team.
Yeah. Again, just like Hero Quest, you get specific dice as well. So it wasn't just standard D6. They were proper sort of, these are the specific dice for the game. This is how you roll them. Different dice give you different points. Again, really, really cool. Just so different for the time.
It's very colourful.
Yes.
Which, I know it's not Warhammer 40,000, but when you think of this kind of a game, you think grim and dingy.
Yeah.
And it's very colourful.
Very colourful.
But again, that would entice you in as a kid, right?
Yeah. And when I got this, obviously I was a bit older when I got this, so I tried to paint everything in its original colour scheme. So I never went for, I'm going to make this, because I'm a painter now, I'm going to make it cool. I tried to make it as basic as I could. So when I got an orc, I didn't want to make him super fancy. I painted him how he should have been painted back in the day. So I kept him simple, kept the colours simple, didn't try to do too much edge highlighting or anything like that. Just tried to make it cool, retro, as it was. Kept it as it was, and yeah, I'm really happy with the game. It'd be really. I have played it. I have played it with some friends before, but to play it on the channel will be a really cool thing in the future.
Number 4.
So number 4, another family board game. Pretty much everybody probably knows this game. It's Cluedo. It's a murder mystery game. You've got to go in. You get invited to a party. Someone dies. You got to work out who killed them, what weapon, what room. Basic Cluedo. It's pretty simple. You go around, you find those cards, and you put the clues together, you get it. Super Cluedo is slightly different. Now, Ben, I believe you know what Cluedo is, but I don't believe you ever played Super Cluedo.
No, and my recent memories of playing Junior Cluedo with my children, so I'm completely out of the loop with real Cluedo. Why is this so super?
Well, you'll see when we open the box.
So the board looks familiar for Cluedo.
It does.
But there seems to be a lot more on it.
Now, there is a lot more on it. Now, the biggest thing, the difference from what I know about Super Cluedo to normal Cluedo is these little tokens. Now, the idea of Super Cluedo is you run around. Again, you're still doing the same thing. You still want to find out who killed the guy, what weapon they used, what room. You still got to make those accusations. You still got to run around. But you actually have to find the clues to build up your case. Now, to do that, you have to run around and get these little blue tokens, and each blue token has a number on, as you can see. So that one is number
26.
So you'd all have a Cluedo card, a detective notes card. So I'll give you that, Ben.
Okay.
So 26 is quite a simple one. So it says look under the flap of the beige murder card holder. So this is a murder card holder. Now inside here would be a game card. So let me put this one up straight away. So Reverend Green, here he is. We stick Reverend Green inside here, like this.
Stick him in there.
And we'll stick him in there. So in this version, me and Ben were playing, Reverend Green is the murderer. So if you had a look under any flap, does it say?
So my clue for 26, look under any one flap on the beige murder card holder.
So Ben would pick a basically flap.
I want this one.
So he wants this flap right here. and it's green.
So now I've checked the flap.
Yep.
So I'll open up this.
Yep.
And what have we got?
And now on here you have different colours and different numbers. So you would cross out every single green you see. So through all the suspects, through all the weapons, through all the rooms.
Okay, so you would cross them out because you've seen that.
Because you've seen it. So what you need is you need a code of 4 to build it up. So eventually you will open every flap on this, or you will hopefully open every flap on this card.
Yeah.
And you will see that green, white, 2 and 7 are the code for
green, white, green, 2 and 7, Reverend Green.
Reverend Green. So
okay.
So that's how you would assume Reverend Green was the suspect.
Okay.
But it's not quite as simple as just picking up a random 26 and getting to look under the beige. You may get a number 9. So what's a number 9, Ben?
Number 9, there is a clue on the spanner.
So again, this what makes this game the carnage that it is. So the spanner could be, let's say it's in the lounge, and let's say me and Ben, and say there's a couple of other boys are playing too, and we're all over here, and say we pick it up. Say Ben, let's say Ben's Miss Peacock, and he picks up that certain clue, number 9, from here. So he knows there's a clue on the spanner now.
Yeah.
So everybody has to run towards the spanner.
Okay.
So basically, the only way you get there, you can run this way, obviously through any doors, stairwells. You go through the stairwell to that stairwell. Good thing is you can block stairwell. So if I went through this stairwell and didn't want you to get into the lounge, I could actually end my turn there. So the only way you're going to, so you have to go to either this stairwell, that's the main stairwell, so you can get there too. Nice. These are French doors, and again, just makes it a bit more chaotic because it'd be like, there's a clue on this, everybody would just stop what they're doing to run because they wanted to get the spanner because on there will be a clue. Now in the clues,
okay, that's me looking at
these are your clue cards.
So then I would get to that.
So if you got there first, you pick it up.
Have a look under one flap.
So again, so that would give you your.
But that could be any of the, because there's more than one.
There is.
Looking inside here, you have a green, black, and beige.
Yeah, but you don't know which one holds which thing. So you don't know whether the beige holds the murderer, or the black holds the murderer, or the green holds the murderer.
So would there be something in each one?
There'd be something in each one.
Okay. So yeah, lots of happy memories basically from when you were younger, playing this with the family.
Yeah.
Just all sitting around.
Yeah. Again.
Wasting the hours away playing this.
Playing this game again.
Nice.
Totally random. You never knew who the murderer was. Never knew what the weapons were. Every time would be different. Same principle every time, but again, it's just the chaos of running around trying to find clues.
Coming in at number 3.
Rip up the road and back. Stop the road and crash it, cause you gotta have more track. You'll never be the same. Somebody's game, okay? You gotta make it through life. On the road, there's only one survive. On the road, we're all great games from Milton Bradley.
Okay, so number 3 is Thunder Road. A game that I had as a kid. Unfortunately, I still haven't got it now. Obviously, the pieces got lost, and I played it to death again. That's why it's in my top 3. Mad Max inspired.
Nice.
Came out in 1986. I probably got it a few years after that, I think. I remember buying it actually on the way to my nan's house, and she lived way up country. We got it on the way. I was so excited to play it. I just played it the whole time I was at my nan's house. Well, I didn't care about being on holiday. I just wanted to play board games. Again, like Mad Max, you had loads of cars. You had to basically drive from one end of the road to the other. But the cool thing about the game was set up with 2 boards. Once you got to the end of the 2 boards, that board at the back got moved to the front, and the road just kept going on and on.
It's like a rolling road.
A rolling road, on and on and on until everybody got destroyed. So basically, you had 4 different vehicles. You had like a little buggy, you had a car, you had like a war wagon, basically, is the best way to describe it, and a helicopter. They would be your group they'd be your squad, basically. You'd fight against 3 other players. Basically, the idea is drive along, shoot everybody, kill them all. Last man standing wins.
That sounds awesome.
Very basic, but a car game inspired by Mad Max. What could go wrong? It was just awesome. Just awesome. Played it loads of times with my brother, with my friends and stuff as a kid. And it just, again, that's why I got lost in as the years went by, because we just played to death.
Did it come with model cars in the game, or could you use like die cast?
No, you actually had the model cars. So the cars weren't very big. They were literally sort of 10 mil.
Okay.
Each one. Slightly bigger, obviously the war wagon was slightly bigger. You had, the other cool thing was you had wrecked cars as well. So in the road, you'd have like damaged cars that were flipped over. And if you drove along, you could ram each other into the cars basically, because there'd be nowhere else to go. So you had to end up hitting a car, and that would slow you down and damage your vehicle. And yeah,
that's really cool.
Or run each other off the road. So of course, the main road was down through the middle of the board, and you had a dirt track on the side. But if you went on the dirt, you obviously slowed you down. So of course, the idea was if you drove to the end, that board would disappear, so you'd die.
So if there was players left on the other board due to like movement being impeded by being on the dirt or being stuck behind a wrecked car, if you got to this point, which would then trigger that, the player's lost.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So sometimes it was cool just to drive like the wind and just go for it, because then you just kill everybody at the back. Or maybe you go, right, no, you're not, I'm going to do that, I'm going to shoot everybody instead. So that was the tactics of it. It wasn't just a plain, just I'm going to drive. It was like, okay, how are we going to do this? What vehicles I'm going to use for what? And again, you could lose your own vehicles, because if you had your buggy at the front, which is the fastest one, if he went too quick, your war machine might be at the back and he'd be destroyed. But he's the powerful one. So again,
you have to really think about some tactics with it. That's really cool.
Yeah. So again, really cool game. Maybe, I mean, it's one of those pipe dreams. If I could find one on eBay, I will buy it because it was that cool. I would definitely play again. Yeah.
And if you're a dedicated fan with more sense than money and find one on eBay, let us know and send it to us.
Yeah,
we'd be really grateful.
Number 2!
Number 2. Now, this one, it was such a toss-up between this and my actual number 1. Because number 2 is Crossbows and Catapults. Now, anybody ever played this game, they'll know how cool it actually was. Now, Ben, I'm going to have to describe this to you, and I think you'll get excited when I tell you about it. Now, remember I told you at the start about Torpedo Run?
Mm-hmm.
Very interactive, 2 players, fire against each other, with little discs. Crossbows and Catapults, exactly the same, principle-wise.
Right.
But you fought back in the olden times.
Let's watch the advert.
Okay.
The Vikings and the barbarians will do battle this day with crossbows and catapults. They skirmish at the outposts and at the heavily guarded fortresses. There's furious action with warriors, spies. The mighty Minotaur bellows defiance at the frightful Cyclops, and the earth trembles. Crossbows and Catapults by Lakeside. The fantasy adventure with real action. Better luck next time. Oh.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
That awesome.
It was wicked.
Did you ever dress up as the Minotaur?
No, I didn't. No, not that one.
I'm disappointed.
Okay.
That looked like it would have been the best game ever as a kid.
Now, the cool thing was, as you sort of saw from the advert, was you built up your castle how you wanted it. There was no set rules. You could basically build your castle as you wanted, put your wall up, stacked it all up, had your men as you wanted them, had your catapults as you wanted them, had your crossbows as you wanted them. Whoever you picked didn't really make a difference. You had the Vikings or the barbarians. You had different weapons, so you had a Minotaur and you had like a Cyclops.
Mm-hmm.
So there would be the slightly differences. You had a Trojan horse, you had a battering ram. There was loads of extra stuff. But the idea basically was destroy the other person with these little discs, little red discs, were probably, 50 mil wide, about 10 mil sort of depth.
Just like firing them off
at each other, turn by turn, trying to smash down castle walls.
That sounds awesome.
And it was really, really cool. And there's a really cool story from my childhood where my brother and my dad, my brother actually got it for Christmas, and my brother and my dad were playing it in the living room, and they were actually smashing the glass ornaments on the Christmas tree because the discs were overflowing and smashing the glass. And my dad at the time just didn't really care, but Mum was going mad. Unfortunately, they don't make it anymore, but they did re-release a different version of it.
Oh, really?
Probably about 10 years ago, they brought it out again.
Did the re-release have the same function? So firing the...
Yeah, same functions.
I'm quite surprised because with how soft the world is these days,
yeah,
the idea of a kid firing a high-powered disc at another kid and...
Yeah. And of course, you can make it a bit more... I believe my brother actually did this when we were younger, because obviously everything was fired via elastic band. So you had an elastic band, you obviously put it on your catapult, let it go, fire it off. If you want to get a bit more power, you just add a tighter elastic band. So of course you could really get some good impact, especially with the crossbows, which can sat on the floor and you just fire them forward. Yeah, you could really do some damage with those bad boys.
That sounds amazing. I've not heard of that game before, but that advert and your description of it made that amazing.
Yeah, that's why again it probably would have come number one, but of course I just didn't have it enough time because we, as kids, it was my brother's game. We played it to death. It got destroyed, so I only had like these little childhood memories of it. It's like a little glimpse of my memories of it having it, but it was again really, really, really cool.
So yeah, if you've got any crossbow and catapult related injuries or Christmas decoration smashing stories, put them in the comments and let us know.
Yeah, definitely.
Number 1!
So, number 1 is Hero Quest.
Sorry about that, viewer. If you saw the early days of the channel, you may understand quite why.
I still love this game. So again, from my childhood, 89 I believe this came out. As soon as I saw the adverts on TV, that was it. I was sold. This game was going to be the one for me. It was awesome. I asked for it straight away. That Christmas I got it. I didn't want anything else. It was like, no, Hero Quest. I don't care if I don't get nothing else. I just want Hero Quest. Back in the day, I believe it came out for about £30 back in the day, which obviously back in 89 was quite a lot of money.
I can actually tell you that in 1988, this retailed at £19.99.
Ah, that was when it first been released then. Yeah, because it's the 89 version, I believe. So it's just obviously nothing really different. It was just the next version, as it were. So yeah, really, really cool. The figures, again, it's probably gave me my love of Games Workshop and all the rest of the stuff. Because at the time, I didn't know what Games Workshop was. It was really cool to have a 3D board game. Where all the figures were you could actually hold them in your hands. They weren't flat, and it was things like Conan the Barbarian and stuff, all inspired by stuff like that.
And you can see that on the cover, right?
Yeah. So yeah, this game, if anybody's been a fan of the channel for a while, they would know that we started playing this game, and I think everybody enjoyed it the first few sessions.
No, it's definitely one of those games that when you play it, you get some serious nostalgia vibes, and it really reminds you of. It really reminds you of why you sort of fell in love with tabletop gaming, right? It's not a massive game like Warhammer 40,000, which was my first foray into this kind of thing. But like you say, it's a board game, but it's 3D. You've got minis. It's quite random encounters with things.
Random encounters. Yeah,
it's got everything you'd want in that sort of a game.
It was 2 to 5 players. You had like an orc warlord, or we even want to call him the dungeon master. So he was controlling everything else. And then you had the 4 adventurers. And then the cool thing was you evolved your characters. It wasn't just a case of you played one mission and then that was it. You played your mission and you played your next mission. You got your characters better and better and better. Or in Wizard's case, they just got worse and worse, got grumpier and grumpier.
Ethan.
Hi. So, for everybody who hasn't actually seen Hero Quest on the channel, why the hell have you not seen it? Let's have a quick look at the board.
While you're setting it up, let's take a look at the advert from the 80s.
Yeah.
Hero Quest. Deep inside another dimension, face battling barbarians and evil magic on a quest for adventure in a maze of monsters. This is Hero Quest, the fantasy adventure game where winning means mastering the arts of combat.
I'll use my broadsword.
And magic.
Fire of Wrath.
Once you get into it, you'll never be the same. Hero Quest. Now with 2 new adventure packs, the legend grows.
There's a lot of flashbacks there.
Yeah.
But looking at it now we haven't played it for a while.
Yep.
It's kind of reminding me how cool the setup is.
Yeah. And again, as a kid, when you're playing games like Cluedo and Snakes and Ladders, like I said earlier, when this came out, it was just like, what? Exactly.
Flashback.
Exactly. It was just so cool. The fact that you had actually these proper figures, these actual things you could hold in your hands. These were the things you played with. These were like your heroes. You went around and basically started with a blank canvas, and then it built up. The mission built up. It was just really cool. Really, really cool.
And as a kid, they would have been just grey plastic, so you had the option to paint them up. And
which I did do. I painted them up as a kid, which, again, as a kid, I'm actually quite proud of what I did. You know, I mean, I was a little bit older when I painted them. I didn't paint it when I first got it because it took me a while to get into painting and stuff until I got my Warhammer paints. But as a kid, I was like happily making my HeroQuest game even cooler than it originally was. And again, it stood the test of time because I'm going to speak for the rest of everybody in the group. We had some fun playing this game.
Yeah. You think our first video on the channel and our 50th video on the channel,
yep.
You know, and almost everything in between was HeroQuest.
Yep.
And it is good fun, despite that little outburst at the beginning and some of the tantrums that some of us had when we were playing. But I can just, you know, I didn't have this as a kid, but I can just imagine, like you say, that excitement of seeing that advert and thinking, that's for me. I want that.
This game, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And again, just opening it up, because my brother-in-law bought the re-release of this, him and his son.
Yeah.
And when he opened that up and seeing all the new models like in the box, unpainted and all new, it's like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So again, having that joy as a kid and seeing that must have been something else.
Yeah, definitely. And you think back in the 80s as well. So there was nothing like this in the 80s. No. Nothing that I knew of. I mean, Dungeons and Dragons was out, but over here, didn't really know Dungeons and Dragons. So it was just a case of, what is this? What is this world I'm getting into? How can I, you know, I'm actually going into a board game and I feel like I'm part of this world. So again, really cool. This is why it's my number one, because it just brought me to a different place. Totally did. I've never actually played this game, believe it or not, Ben, from start to finish. So
and you never will. But no, and you know, we said before, haven't we? We want to finish this, so we will revisit it in the future.
We will.
And hearing that excitement that you have for it and how highly you hold it, it sort of feels that little bit of joy in me that we get to play that.
Yeah.
As mushy as that may sound.
Yeah.
But something else that I really like about this is, as a game for kids, obviously you had, like you say, D&D was around when this came out. There was probably other tabletop war games, but they were probably sort of Napoleonic sort of time where you would have had multi-sided dice and all that kind of stuff to play with. This, you have 2d6 for your movement, and you have a dice that make it very, very clear if you've hit and if you've saved.
Yep.
And for a kid, that must make things so simple.
So simple, yeah.
You know, it's not roll a d20 and times it by your skill and this and that, and you might have a stubbed toe if you're dead or you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
And I really like that. And I imagine this was the gateway game for a lot of people that got into role playing in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is the one that opened my eyes up to. I mean, again, this advert was out. I went to get HeroQuest. Space Crusade came out a year or so later. My friend got that, so I was like, this is amazing. And then the day I walked into a shop and found Warhammer 40k, I was like, well, that's it. I've already been. You've got me with the prequels because that's what this was. And then I got into 40k, and hence why 40k stands on its own. But this started all. This was Genesis for me. This is where I got my bug for miniatures, for painting, for playing games. Yeah. So this why it has to be number one. Has to be number one.
That's really cool.
So there you go. That's the top 10, or my top 10. Hopefully Ben's been on a little journey with me. Hopefully he's enjoyed some of it.
It's been really cool going on that little journey.
Yeah.
Sort of from... Obviously, it's not in the order that you got
no,
them,
it wasn't
you discovered them.
No.
In that, the way you've ranked them and just seeing the games that have turned you into the cynical old man you are now, it's been really good.
Yeah. So yeah, if anybody else want to put their top 10s on, whack them in the comments below, and if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. But yeah, again, my top 10 is this. Be interested to see yours. Everybody's going to be different, which is really cool, which makes us all really cool and different. So yeah, if you like the video, give us a subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one. I used to sit for hours just doing it.
Put everything on red 3.
Oh, not a firmer again. Who keeps rigging these wandering monsters?
Hi, Tom.